Welcome, Ultimate fans, to Ultiworld's live streaming coverage of the 2021 USA Ultimate Division III College Championships. Coming to you from Norco, California, just about an hour outside beautiful Los Angeles. Sunny day here in California at the Silver Lake Sports Complex. And we've got a semi-final matchup in the men's division. Richmond getting ready to take on Oklahoma Christian. I'm Keith Rayner, joined in the booth by Katie Killebrew. And Katie, these are two teams who won their pools. They were top seeds. A lot of talk about what these teams could do. Very different kind of program. Richmond, a team that was competing for a national title back in 2019. Oklahoma Christian in their first season ever in 2019. Now here they are in the semifinals.
Yeah, in their first national championship. I mean, a lot of these players seem to know each other really well. We have some top club prospects playing in this game in Kyle Henke, really a big pickup for Oklahoma Christian.
Henke, a big name, but not the only high-impact player on this OC team. And, of course, a number of big-name Division III players on this Richmond roster, as well as including the reigning Donovan winner, Harris Cannon. But this should be a very interesting one. Oklahoma Christian surviving, really. A lot of very close matchups on their way to this semifinal. Maybe their best result yet, that quarterfinal win over Whitman, excuse me. Richmond has been pretty dominant, dispatching nearly every opponent they've come across by a comfortable margin. Meanwhile, in the other semifinal, Middlebury and St. Olaf taking each other on the 2 and 3 seeds. So we've got 1 through 4 here in the semifinal, just as we did in the women's division. The lower seeds doing well in the women's side. We'll see if that same pattern can play out here on the men's side.
I don't know that anyone can really predict the outcome of this game because Oklahoma is such an unknown quantity in terms of their history in this D3 division. I think that we've seen the Spider Monkeys Richmond's team getting very excited before the game, yelling for each other, lots of cheers, but the one that really made me laugh was he said, "To glory!" and they all cheered. So all sorts of hype happening on this game. You might not see the crowds around it, but because a lot of other players and teams have left to go to D1 semis at a slightly different location. But this fan base actually is really strong from the parents and alumni supporters. They're all here to pump up their teammates. But I don't think anyone is going to get quite as hype as these players on the field. They are here to play.
Big, energetic sidelines for teams that have waited a long time to get to this point. But don't say that nobody can predict the future of how these teams are going to do, because prognostication is like 25% of our brand. So
fair.
I certainly try and remember all the ones I got right and just forget about the ones that I missed,
Maybe I should just say no one can 100% accurately predict what's going to happen in Ultimate. Anyone can make predictions or guesses, hypotheses, if you will. But in fact, it is what happens on this field today that counts and goes down into the annals of USA Ultimate and Ultiworld history. It will be the opinions after this result that will stand. That's
one of the things we all love about sports. On paper, you can prognosticate, you can try and line teams up, figure out who's got the superior roster, who's got the matchup advantage. But what matters is how they perform, and these teams will be put to the test. Richmond in red, pulling, and then offsides to start this game off. A little too excited.
Yeah, offsides no longer resulting in a loss or a re-pull. It will just immediately be bricked by this team. Subsequent offsides will again have more yardage penalties.
So disc being walked up and tapped in by Elliot Moore. He's one of the key throwers for OC, and a sliding catch by Kyle Henke.
Catch attempt.
But yeah, an incompletion.
It was a drop.
So Richmond picks up. Initiating the other way. And now Hardy almost in the end zone. And I don't know what kind of throw that was, but I can tell you it was worth a goal. I'm speechless at Emmett Rice's throwing decision, but you can't argue with results.
Yeah, I think push pass is even a strong word to describe it. Shove? a hope and a prayer pass? Just a, here you go, kind of an option. But in fact, that works. That was right there at the front of the end zone. The Richmond Spider Monkeys absolutely starting to lose their mind for that first score and break.
And what a quick break it was. I mean, the other team fails to attempt to complete a single pass and summarily executed.
Yeah, outside their own end zone, and there, that was strange. I don't even know the physics of how that disc got there, but a score is a score.
There's no name for whatever that was.
I don't know. I challenged Twitter to come up with a fun name for that kind of pass.
That was a dark arts maneuver on the part of Richmond.
Yeah, Richmond again on defense. We're seeing those same players. I don't know their names yet, but both of those orange hats standing out very strongly. Targets for those two players.
Chris Casella and Xavier McCormick, two of the key players for this Richmond team, donning those orange winter caps that, of course, are reminiscent of the ones made famous by Portland Rhino Slam, the men's club division. Don't know if that's the connection, but these two guys certainly stand out on the field. Elliot Moore looking deep, not dissuaded by the mistake on the previous point, going right back to Henke, and Henke fights off Cannon with the score. Players exchange a low five, and now both teams exchanging scores, 1-1.
Yeah, Henke going up for that disc under intense pressure, maybe a little bit unsafe coming in underneath Henke's legs, but managing to retain possession and also their footing. This was just such a big flick going up the entire length of the field, space there, and you can see that body contact after Henke has already caught the disc.
Henke and Moore, both players coming over from Texas, competing together in the AUDL. Played club together as well, and these are two players who've seen a lot of high-level ultimate and are big additions to a roster to compete, particularly in Division III, where not that many players have that level of experience. You know, Henke is a serious playmaker in his own right, but you can already see that they are not shy about saying, you know, these are two of our top players. We're going to get them in space and force you to stop them before we go to anything else.
Absolutely, and this is going to be our first look at the O-line for Richmond. Richmond's O-line absolutely stalwart in their previous games, giving up almost no breaks and really holding many, many throws, a testament to their chemistry and their long time together. This is a team that really wants to play for each other.
Nice pull from Henke. Richmond just declining to field it. But their throw wide, so both teams' offenses starting with turnovers. Some discussion, I guess, between.
Oh, it looks like there was a travel called. Again, the hand signal is helping us out, but that travel doesn't bring the disc back. A turn is a turn in that case.
Henke picks up. So he's been the deep receiver and now acting as the initiator. It's the thrower. Goes cross field with a forehand. Oklahoma Christian going into the red zone. Manuel Kimmery with the disc. Now flips it over to Jonathan Costello, another one of the additions to this team through the Oklahoma Christian Scholarship Program. We'll talk more about that. Javen Smith. Now back into the hands of Henke in the red zone. Henke about 6 or 7 or so yards out. Inside throw to space. Run down by Sammy Roberts. Henke getting in nearly every other and going frequently to that step out inside break backhand. And now he ends up getting the goal on the scuba. Costello right back to Henke. Oklahoma Christian breaks back.
Yeah, another very interesting, non-traditional throw for that score. A flat floating scuba, but clearly Hankey knew that that was coming.
Costello just lifting that one over the stack, and Hankey making himself a threat at basically right after he's gotten the disc. And I think that's a great tactic as a player, remaining active, presenting options for your throwers, and Hankey knowing that he can play make if the disc comes his way. So it's partially on him to make sure that he's involved. Don't want to be passive as a receiver.
No, and I think that being in the break space like that, the defender just went off trying to get into that onside field position, leaving Hankey open. The coach kneeling down, all those players getting together. They're going to try to get another break here. It looks like maybe they had an intense conversation in these short in-between times to figure out what they're doing.
And hard to talk about OCU, the Eagles, without talking about the scholarship program. I mean, that is the story that really broke this team onto the scene in 2019. Basically, showed up out of nowhere, started a new program, and were offering scholarships for players to come play at their small school in Oklahoma. They brought in some fifth years from then runner-ups Air Force, and now have added some new stars to the team. And this basically untried at any level of North American Ultimate. So we're seeing the experiment play out. Pistolesi looking deep, contested catch, second effort, bounces out of the hands. Great effort on the part of McCormick, but cannot make the completion happen. Moore, pump fakes, goes under. That is an uncomfortable looking catch.
Yeah, player going down on the slightly unstable landing after that jump up to catch the reception. It looks like it's going to be an injury substitution. That player looking a little bit uncomfortable, being helped off by their teammates.
Eli Johnson, the player involved in that injury, and we've seen these field conditions have certainly led to unsteady ground, and players have had trouble with ankles and knees throughout the tournament thus far, and unfortunate, especially given that a lot of players maybe not at peak performance given the long absence so many have had from Ultimate. Hankey, not a bad substitute if you're going to swap somebody in.
Yeah, pickup field, not surprising given how close all those players are together.
Yeah, nice little bunch in the middle of the field, little hangout session. Hankey resets. Roberts looking deep for Moore. Moore's been throwing the Hucks. Now he's trying to track one down, and that one drops right into his waiting hands. OCU up 3-1 with a back-to-back breaks.
Yeah, that play went the other way. It started out with Oklahoma Christian running a very poachy defense, shutting down the lanes. The Richmond offense not knowing totally how to respond, leading to some high stall count, kind of bailout, Blady throws, eventually getting the D, and then this big huck going the other direction to Moore, the defender not able to run it down. I just love the drone footage. You can see how that whole play develops, really tracking the disc well all the way through that entire reception.
Right now, it's been a pretty straightforward recipe for OCU to get to the end zone. Create space, find deep lanes. I mean, this is a team that looks athletic and fast. They've certainly got the throwers. So they've really just been leaving a lot of room for their top cutters to go to work.
Absolutely, and Oklahoma Christian, all of the props to them. As soon as that disc turned, they were off to the races using that fast break offense. If Richmond is going to turn the disc over or have any sort of miscues, they're going to have to get on defense a little bit faster to try to stop that flow of Oklahoma Christian.
Coach Garrett Taylor helping give his team some directions. Surprised there's no offsides call. It looked like they were way offsides on that ball, but I could be mistaken. Many people have misidentified the lines on this specific field throughout this tournament.
Yeah, that pole sailing out of bounds, giving this chance to set this offense a chance to set up with a look. You can see those poaches in the lane facing backwards right there, moving the disc off.
Liam Day opening the possession, and Richmond rushing up the field, and a little too much rush. Cannon trying to flip that disc out quickly, and instead it goes to ground. Henke picks up. Hesitation on the cut for Emmanuel Kamari, and now some discussion that deflected out of his hands by the defense, but a second effort catch, so question about whether the catch was in bounds, and then maybe how the contact impacted. There's a lot of different issues to suss out.
Yeah, the observer, that's the audio you hear. The observer, you can hear the wind picking up a little bit as these two players continue to discuss what happened. It looks like Kamari is calling a foul, and then the other player is talking about where and when that disc was caught. We can see here on the replay with Henke picking it up, and play out of frame.
And Kamari will keep the disc. The observer rules that there was a foul. So they'll begin possession, holding with Henke behind them to reset. He fakes and then drops it off for that reset. Henke around to Henry Groves. Henke getting a full die and a touches. Now Cannon tasked with containing him. Henke cross field, but that hangs.
Yeah, much better defensive intensity from this offensive line. That's what causes the turnover, the team defensive pressure.
Valiant effort by Daniel Griffin to try and save that, but it was well beyond its reach. Reset to Casella. Chris Casella swings one around into the end zone, and a response hold. Richmond had to have it after giving up those breaks. Tommy Bennett with the score. It's 3-2 OCU.
That's good to see Richmond finding their feet again after some slips and slides over this field. You could see that we talked about the Richmond players needing to play more intense defense, and that's exactly what they did, forcing this turn. This is another angle of that play of Kamari, which was the call earlier. Eventually the observers ruling that it was a foul and then a force out foul, right? So they got to come back in bounds. And this is the score, smooth offensive hold. This is the kind of game we wanted to see. The score 3-2. Richmond looking to get a break and earn that break back from earlier in this game.
Yeah, Richmond probably a bit unfamiliar with having to play from behind, given the fact that they've been blowing out nearly every team that they faced at this tournament here in Norco. But that speaks to some of the experiences that this team has had in previous years that they can kind of tap back into. Of course, they lost that semifinal on double game point. Really a miraculous series of plays, too, in 2019. So they're hungry to get through the semifinals, make it to the final, get further than they did last year. And, of course, as the #1 overall seed, with all of these top players back, they have eyes on a title.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit of nerves being in another semifinal game that gave them a little bit of nightmares the last time they were here on this kind of field and opportunity. So
this is the third pull that we've watched drop to the ground harmlessly in front of a potential receiver. This time, though, it looks like there was another offsides. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. I've not seen this play out in any game that I've watched so far at this event. Henke trying to figure out where that brick mark should be. Now he checks it in. Sizable mark of the Hunter Lang in front of him. It looks like a junk set now from Richmond. I always love to see a team's star players in the front of their zones.
Agreed. It's nice to see players who are playmakers with those big throws really putting in the work with their legs, trying to get blocks up front.
Peniagua around to Henke, and he swings it over to Evan Card. Pick call. It's going to send this back from Moore to Card. Matchup defense now. Richmond looks like they have transitioned out of their junk set. Tight on each of these OC cutters. Not necessarily on the reset. Paniagua, nicely delivered break backhand to Moore, and Moore immediately fires to the end zone for Henke, his favorite target, and that's the kind of athletic catch Kyle Henke makes with regularity. He strikes again as OCU gets their 4th goal.
Yeah, really nicely delivered throw to Henke as the wind begins to maybe pick up. I keep saying that like it's going to happen, and then the wind dies back down just to play with my emotions. But that throw really going counterflow. The entire movement of that offense has been going and going and going towards our far sideline. Moore looks up and sees Henke, and it delivers it all the way across the field. Maybe not perfect, but Henke able to make that athletic grab to retain possession.
And I think that's a little bit more of the chemistry on display between Moore and Henke, because Moore hesitated for only a moment before turning to find that throw. Henke already setting up that cut, so these two kind of know what each other wants. And Henke, famous of course for his greatest when he was playing with the Austin Soul in the AUDL. It was a play that made it all over Sports Center, and is one of, if not the most watched play in all of Ultimate. It reappears into my social media feeds every once in a while. I don't know how it continues to find new life, but a remarkable play by Henke and the kind of playmaking athleticism that he's made his trademark.
Absolutely, and now this D line for Oklahoma Christian looking to extend their lead by getting a break here. I think that Richmond desperately needs a hold, especially if this wind continues to pick up.
Good to see Johnson returning to the field after leaving with an injury earlier. So it looks like he's moving a little gingerly, but just something to keep an eye on through this game. So transition defense from OCU, and Kamari blocking that one at the point of attack.
Twice.
So they'll record another block, and OCU will get another chance at a break. Roberts to Kamari. He's looking for a reset. Kamari finds a release valve. That's Cameron White resetting to Costello. It's very spaced out downfield by OCU. Not exactly maximizing sideline space, but maybe just getting a little disorganized as their stack finds a little discipline and shape during this stoppage.
Unclear if there was a stoppage and what had happened. Maybe a timeout being called with a late stall count. Yeah, I mean, taking it for this break outside your own end zone, I don't know that I have any disagreements with that choice right there, especially as options looked like they were drying up with players a little bit confused or just a little bit tired, not wanting to make that last cut in this end zone. You can see here this play again. Such a good block there by Kamari.
Yeah, absolutely no room. And very difficult to make that play without fouling.
Yeah, and get the second effort. The player that threw it was right there ready to catch, and Kamari put his body in the way, both hands slamming the disc to the ground to say no.
And I don't know what the stall count is coming in on, but in general, I detest high stall timeouts. But they can certainly work. And, if you're coming in on 6 or 7, it's a little bit different than, say, 8. But unclear right now what it's going to come in on or how OCU will choose to attack given that information. Pretty straightforward set, just a vertical stack. Kamari at the front. Player in the reset space, Javen Smith. And then lots of room on either side. Sometimes you'll just see if in a high stall situation, a throw floated out to the break side. They're going to ISO Kamari. There's enough time to get through one look and then float it up. And Costello fights off the defense for the catch. A big play by Joe Costello and another break for the Eagles. They're flying high at 5-2 lead.
I mean, I don't know what that stall actually came in on. I couldn't see the hand signal, but that hammer going up and that reception under pressure, that is an absolutely fired up Oklahoma Christian line. And it looks like we're taking another timeout to submit the emotions of these teams, but you can see that reception, 2 defenders coming in, and the very strong athletic grab from Costello.
Early in this game, the big plays all going OCU's way. A couple of those bobbled catches go the other way, and we could be talking about a very different game, but Richmond reeling a bit now on their heels against an Oklahoma Christian team that's been surviving a lot of close games. So they've had a chance to have themselves tested, play in pressure situations, build up that ability to compete even in situations where the outcome of the game is very much in doubt.
Yeah, I think that the adversity that these 2 teams have faced in the past will probably play into this game. I, as a coach, never want to go into an elimination game without having a game where my team struggled, where we had to figure something out, because you don't want to have to necessarily struggle in these moments, and I think that that's what Richmond is facing at the moment. They haven't really been tested as much in this tournament, and at the moment when they're facing this adversity, we'll have to see how they respond to being down 2-5 in this game.
I always say, you want to take a punch first. You want to have one land on your jaw so you know how you respond. Is it Mike Tyson who's credited with that quote? Everybody has a plan until you get hit in the face, something along those lines. And I think that you need to go through that experience, that kind of panic that sets in when you're suddenly getting kicked around by a team on the field, figuratively speaking. And you don't want that situation to be completely unfamiliar when you're in the most important moments of your season.
Exactly. These are high pressure moments. This team having lost in the semifinals before, feeling that panic maybe a little bit, and not responding well to the pressure so far that Oklahoma Christian have been putting on this team. We'll have to see as they respond to this short, maybe trying to roll pull. Ooh, a sliding stop.
I love high effort pull coverage. Love it. Casella underneath. And again, I think a brief transition for OCU. I mean, it's just a couple of passes that they're staying in a junk set. Maybe trying to take away a pull play. It's now Pistolesi. Man, they called simply Pistol. He sets up a deep throw for McCormick, looking for Casella. Casella half falling, half bidding to try and make the play, doing whatever it takes. And again, the big plays just going OCU's way. Richmond not able to come up with them. Paniagua resets it. Roberts with the travel call. Confusion, I think, from some of the players. One of those rules that's recently changed, travel not stopping play. Now deep shot going up, looking for Henke, but 2 defenders there, so Henke will have no shot. Well defended by Richmond.
Yeah, and that wind has stayed around. It's not really enough to stop these big throws, but certainly enough to affect them. And that one just not going exactly to the receiver of Henke.
So full 70 to go, and there is a little bit of a breeze, maybe more than we've seen most of the day, but that's not going to dissuade a deep shot going up. Liam Day firing that one. A number of help defenders coming from OCU, and that ensures that Emmett Rice's effort will go unrewarded.
I love that layout in the sun. The sun starting to set, shadows lengthening, lighting up the dust on that layout.
Henke picks up, goes to work. He and Sammy Roberts just working it between one another as they wait for the cutters to break, open some space downfield. Right on time is Garrett Houston. Kamari resetting. Power position for Henke. Kamari taking off. He's going to try and hit them. with a deep shot, 3 red jerseys underneath it, and Cannon's the first one there. And that's the third straight Huck, really, if you count Richmond's, where the throw is let a pack of defenders get underneath it.
Yeah, conservation of greatness there, getting the D and then walking away to set up the stack.
McCormick underneath now. Continues to Pistolesi. Pistolesi gonna dial one up for Casello, who gives chase. But not gonna win that race.
No, really putting on the Jets there to try to get that reception, but just too far away. The wind is coming from that far sideline towards the camera, a crosswind that this is starting to affect those Hucks. But clearly not the Huck decisions, because they're still choosing to throw it.
Richmond asking a lot of Chris Casello on this point, making that deep streak and also diving earlier for that cross-field throw. Roberts holsters a deep shot and resets to Henke. Richmond trying to help one another on these potential deep shots, and that's opening up some of these unders. Kamari and Paniagua working amongst each other, and now Henke's got it. Air bounces one past the defense. Kamari looking to get it back on the give and go, but Houston goes elsewhere. And there's almost a delay here for the OC Cutters, that kind of hesitating for a second. That seems to be freezing some of these Richmond defenders. Great cut by Kamari. They get open for a nice reception just outside the end zone, and then throw it at the defender's back. Confusion between Kamari and Henke about which direction Henke was going to want that throw sent, and that hesitation sets up a turnover. Pistolesi taking off, Casello throwing it. A reversal of roles, but Pistolesi comes down with it. Fast break opportunity for Richmond, a completely uncovered receiver, and Pistolesi takes his time, leaving that one into the end zone for Liam Day. Richmond with a crucial score to make it 3-5.
I don't understand totally how Day was so uncovered. I mean, we've seen this Oklahoma Christian defense be very close and stifling. Day over there maybe taking a minute, feeling all the feelings after that hold that took many turns. There was a lot of defensive effort on that play, and the wind is, I would say, growing stronger in this moment. You've maybe heard some papers rustling, or that wind against the microphone. All of that is just a testament to the fact that the wind is coming.
Yeah, you can see the Discraft banner in the background, the breeze starting to impact the various sundry items around the field, and certainly the disc. But that is not, like you said, stop these teams from looking deep. And I think both fatigue and confusion setting in on that last defensive point. And once the Huck went up and Pistolesi brought it in, it seemed almost like Oklahoma Christian kind of gave up on the play.
Yeah, they're going to want a hold here to try to preserve that lead. It's still very early in this game. 5-3, Oklahoma Christian leading, and they are about to receive this very big pull.
Some new faces on the field for Oklahoma Christian after that long point, and both teams digging a little bit into their depth, although it'll still be Henke beginning play for the Eagles.
Yeah, that pull landing inbounds and then rolling out the back of the end zone, so Henke will take it on the front end zone line, which is in fact that blue line on the field. Pre-stall coming in.
Horizontal stack with Costello and Paniagua on stage. Elliott Moore bouncing into power position. Great fakes, and then just absolutely launches a forehand. And of course, it's Kyle Henke on the receiving end of it. You got to go back to what works.
Yeah, that was a really beautiful put by Moore just there. I think it was a testament to Henke's athleticism, because that disc started to sail in the wind, but Henke able to track it back down.
And one of the things I love about that setup is more taking that shot from the high side of the field. With the way that the wind is blowing right now, I think that the camera is on the low side of the field. So in general, the disc is actually going to trend towards this direction. So if you're throwing from this sideline, the disc is often going to be pushed out of bounds. If you're throwing from the opposite sideline, the disc is often going to be pushed back towards the middle of the field or the opposite sideline. More taking advantage of the conditions, putting the disc out in front, and it drops in for Henke before it can reach the sideline. So 6-3, the game's starting to settle down a little bit after some runs to begin it.
Yeah, we got in that very high turnover point and then again returned to more efficient, efficient offense. There's some high octane throwing happening, but I think that the Richmond O-line would really like to have a statement hold here, a no turnover hold, in order to just feel confident on this field, feel together with their offensive line, and get their defense back on the field, trying to make an impact coming back in this game.
Yeah, business-like hold would be just what this team needs right about now to settle things. And anything but business-like about that throw to space, but tracked down by a hustling Hunter Lang. Gets a continue, but Lauria's throw beyond the reach of the receivers, and Kamari knocks that one down. More pointing for Cutters to go, and it's Kamari who takes that instruction to heart. An excellent defense. What a play by Liam Day, but given right back. Kamari now on with the opportunity again, but a stoppage. I think maybe Day calling an injury. Players trying to indicate where they should be positioned.
Day sliding there a little bit on the field, walking off under his own power, but maybe just needing a break after that exceptional defensive play and the heartbreak of the quick turn. The wind doesn't seem to be affecting the Hawks, but I think it takes extra mental effort and attention in order to make sure that all of your dump passes aren't affected. Making sure you put enough spin on that for your teammates, giving them a chance to catch it easily.
McCormick coming in for Richmond, and of course, it's Henke coming in for OCU. So the Eagles go to the reset right away. And now working towards the red zone. Chance to take a crucial advantage in this game, although a pick's going to stop play.
That was a good loud pick call, getting the attention of the thrower to stop. Also, most of the players there are using the hand signals effectively.
It's Smith with the disc. One of the captains of this team. Resets back to Roberts. And a dump swing well executed by OCU. A couple of mistakes from Richmond. That has been the thread here through this first half, and OCU has been pouncing on them. Now they're up 7-3.
Yeah, Henke coming in for that on that injury substitution and making the most of it, that break opportunity, really using that ability. Again, a timeout called by the Richmond Spider Monkeys in order to regroup, reassess. It seems like they have been making plays and then just turning things back over a little bit, not totally taking care of the disc or respecting the high-flying defense that we've seen coming in from this Oklahoma Christian team. Is this what you expected to see going into this game?
The style of play we're seeing from OCU is about what I expected. I mean, they have a number of players who are contributing, but they're really funneling through this to their top playmakers who are doing a great job getting things moving, getting some great help from some of their other contributors like Sammy Roberts. But I think the thing that's been a surprise for me is the poor execution on the part of the Richmond Spider Monkeys, a team that looks a little bit rattled by OCU. These are preventable mistakes, however, and if they can get some of these out and get a little more efficient, I certainly think it's possible for them to get back in this game, given the quality of play that we've seen at moments, but the consistency has just been lacking.
Yeah, those are always the worst mistakes when you know it was preventable, you know it's your own fault. It's not necessarily the other team doing it. It seems to be your own team beating yourselves as opposed to the other team beating you. And I mean, props to Oklahoma Christian because they are absolutely capitalizing on those moments that Richmond is giving them. This timeout, I think, an absolutely necessary emotional recheck in for Richmond. We saw them very hype at the beginning of the game, but their sideline has been a little bit lackluster as we've gone through this game. Hopefully we can see them hype up and use that, sometimes they call eighth man, that other teammate, that sideline, in order to get back in this game. Because as we are 1 point from half, if we can get a break here, it looks like Kamari back on this D-line. If they get a break here, it's half 8-3, and that's a very difficult place to come back from. I think it's an absolutely must score for Richmond here.
Even 8-4, a tough ask. I think Richmond would love to get back within 2 or 3 if possible, so a pull out of bounds. It's going to give great field position to Richmond, which could be perfect for them. If they can get a quick score here, maybe they can add some crossover players from the offense to the defense, stack the line a little bit, and see what they can recover in this first half before the intermission.
Yeah, short field is exactly what Richmond wanted, and that out-of-bound pull currently costing many yards, maybe only 10 yards outside of the end zone. It's basically red zone offense at this point.
Yeah, this is a drill you do in practice all the time. And Lang will check it in without a reset, so empty backfield for him. And goes to the inside break, and just a bit too casual on that throw. Elliot Moore with the layout block, and he picks up looking deep right away. No surprise, fires one for Costello. One-on-one, Costello with Pistolesi. Pistolesi ends up in a position where the only way I think he could have made that play is fouling. So forced to back off, and Costello with the fast break timeout.
Yeah, I think a good pullback from Pistolesi. You really want to respect other people's bodies, especially at this point in the day. You don't want to see anybody else be injured unnecessarily. Great defensive bid from Moore, who immediately went to huck it after that. Almost the full length of the field. It turns out that poor pull didn't end up affecting them nearly enough.
Just another error in execution from Richmond. I mean, that is a golden opportunity to punch in a quick hold, which is pretty much right on script for them if you want to make a comeback, and they throw away the first throw. And then just to add insult to injury, they then give up the deep shot right away, and not really on the fault necessarily of Pistolesi, but how many times do you have to see OCU dial up a deep shot, especially from Elliot Moore, to know that that's what you got to expect?
I don't know. I feel like I say the same thing to my players over and over, and in those moments, in the heat of play, sometimes it's hard to remember that you have to immediately absorb that error and play defense.
So out of the timeout, Costello. Backhand force from Richmond. That's going to potentially open up some of the inside lanes. And there it is, an inside backhand. Costello curling back after the upline cut, and Moore gives it to him. So all Elliot Moore and Costello on that point for OCU to take us to half. Eagles with an 8-3 lead, and it is all Oklahoma Christian.
Yeah, this semifinal, I think we expect it to be a little bit closer. I think Richmond especially expected to be a little bit closer, given their absolute dominance earlier in the tournament, but maybe not having been challenged, these kind of plays, suddenly they're not able to come in those close. Wow, just such a beautiful layout from Moore. Really good offense from Oklahoma Christian. I mean, you can't argue with it. They're playing exceptionally. It's really Richmond who has to step up to the plate if they're going to beat this team.
And Richmond looking a little shell-shocked as they head under the tent. Their leadership gathering to try and figure out what they're going to do in the second half. You can see Pistolesi and the others conversing in that group because they know that everything is on the line, everything that they've worked for. They have a number of graduate students who would love to leave here with a title, to bring one back to the University of Richmond, but they have a lot of work to do against a high-quality Eagles team to make that dream come true. So Richmond trailing after a series of mistakes and some big plays by the Oklahoma Christian Eagles. Kyle Henke, Elliot Moore, Emmanuel Kamari, and a number of other players involved in some crucial plays for OCU. Can they make it to the final in their first ever trip to nationals?
What would it look like if a competitive sport didn't mean a choice? Between beauty and brutality, style and steel. Between calling yourself out and clawing to stay in. What if there was a game that found balance? Between spirit and sport, agony and elation, like a disc dancing on air.
We now have evolved into a team sport of a game called Ultimate.
It stands by itself in that it is like no other game.
Between perfect passes and devastating drops. Like the balance we so desperately needed, we had no choice but to create it ourselves. Long live grit and grace. Long live Ultimate.
UltiWorld's live streaming coverage of the 2021 College Championships is presented in part by AGW Ultimate. You can find them at agwultimate.com, and they want to remind you, just say no to Big Ultimate.
Welcome back to UltiWorld's live streaming coverage of the 2021 USA Ultimate Division III College Championships. Oklahoma Christian holding an 8-3 lead all over the Richmond Spider Monkeys here in the D3 semifinals. You can see Oklahoma Christian fighting for a spot in the final. They'll face the winner of Middlebury and St. Olaf. In the background behind us, St. Olaf at last count up 6-5 in that game. So a closer contest over there, but we've already gotten to half, so we're ahead on schedule. Now Richmond, #1 overall seed. They have been kicking butt, taking names throughout this tournament, but now it's their name getting taken. When you're trying to come back from behind, Katie, what do you talk to your team about it in trying to get back in front of a team that's been outplaying you?
I mean, you have to control what you can control. You can't control the wind, you can't control how the other team is playing, but you can control the decisions that you're making and the flow in which you're using your offense. I think that Whitman really needs to use their resets a little bit earlier. They're bowing into the pressure that Oklahoma Christian is putting on them, moving the disc, changing the point of attack, maybe not trying to gun all the way down the field because Oklahoma Christian has some very big, deep defenders, moving the disc a little bit more effectively on the width, especially if this wind picks up. I don't think we've seen either team run a zone. I think we need to see some different forces, some different defenses. It's really going to be on this team to get a hold and then put their D-line on. That pull going all the way to the back corner.
Very nice pull from Henke, and the errors just keep coming for Richmond. They just can't get it going. Turnover on a short field, so just past midfield. Going to be picked up by Roberts.
Just rushing a little bit.
It's so deflating as Kyle Henke breaks the ankles of his defender and then throws the cross-field assist. When it rains, it pours. It's pouring on Richmond. 9-3, the Eagles lead.
Yeah, it was really the fake upfield by Henke, breaking the ankles almost of his defender who slides to the ground, unable to. Henke open, and then just unleashes a counter flow flick to an unguarded receiver on the other side of the field. This is where I think we see the error, quickly rushing up the field and just misjudging this throw. It harmlessly sails to the ground. So sad and deflated. Henke pulling up there, and this big flick going to the other side. Easy break for Oklahoma. Christian with that short field turnover mistake by this O-line. That is not the way that I think Richmond talked about coming out into this half.
So, Katie, you mentioned really focus on the things that you can control. And for me, those two things that I often talk about to teams that I coach are we can control our focus and our effort. The other team cannot do anything to stop those things. So we can, when we are having trouble, when things feel like they're just not going our way, we have to make sure we dial in our focus and our effort. And one of the ways I like to do that is by really trying to turn up the energy on defense. Sometimes when your offense feels like nothing's clicking, you can right the ship a little bit just with some great defensive play. Because it doesn't matter if you're missing on a couple of throws here and there if you're playing great defense. Pistolesi streaks free, and then the quick continue, and Richmond gets a long sought-after hold. Pistolesi pointing to the ground, saying right here, this is where it starts. Richmond trying to fire back up as they trail by 5.
Oh, they rushed the field. That is absolutely the shot in the arm they needed. A big throw uncorked, and we've seen them make mistakes on that dish afterwards, but not after that play. Finally connecting into the end zone, able to get their D-line on the field. Richmond looks fired up. I want to see what they can bring to this game. I hope it's not over. I want to see some more good ultimate being played.
Shots in the arm, more popular than ever these days. Be real important for your community, and certainly a shot in the arm, exactly what this Richmond team needs if they want to come back. But you know what that opens up? It opens up the opportunity to get on defense, and this is where you can try and dictate the game, try and retake control of it, establish yourself. Again, sometimes you're just not connecting on offense. You're missing a throw here and there. You're having trouble with this thing or that thing, but they just can't stop you from playing hard defense. So I'd love to see Richmond come out with a really inspiring defensive effort and apply some pressure to this OCU offense. But that's a tall order given the strength of this O-line guided by Elliot Moore and Kyle Henke.
Yeah, the wind is still here a little bit, but really not affecting the throws. Really just those resets that aren't taken care of.
Fielded up to Henke. Costello with the initiative in the middle of the field. Now Elliot Moore. Moore looking for options. Has to throw it out to space, but a brilliant throw. If you're going to be put in a tough position, that's a great way to get out of it. Kevin Van Roosmalen with the disc. Not a card. Roosmalen takes off. Card just pump fakes. Now fights for an around. Costello going cross field, and the Eagles strike again. I mean, they have been hitting that far corner just repeatedly, going with the cross field throw, and Richmond has not been able to take that away from them.
No, they haven't been able to. I think that's maybe the third time we've seen that, fourth, and I think that really is on the part of the mark. The mark has to be able to start stopping that throw or selling out to stop that throw, because that kind of outlet where there's no defenders trying to do a good job to stop the flow on the open side, it really feels like your defensive effort isn't quite being honored in the way that it should, and that just out almost to the back corner of this other end zone. Good effort, I guess, by the Whitman D-line, but they weren't successful in stopping. They did have a couple of high stalls and one really lucky blade reset to Henke, and I think that if they have an inch here or an inch there, that's a turn instead.
Oh, on the contrary, I think that was a pretty skillful reset on the part of Moore, in part because you kind of negate the mark by throwing to the open side of the mark with the break side of the field. And then with that edge, you're going to be able to he's still able to put it out to space, so Henke's going to have the advantage over the defender. It becomes a problem if you fail to execute it because you can bring in help defense from downfield, but more showing that he can throw that with some real pace and some sharpness on the edge to make sure that it doesn't float away where some of the other defenders can come and get involved in it. Not my ideal reset by any means, but if you're gonna try and get something off at stall 8 or stall 9, that's about as good as you can do it in my opinion. And now you ask for teams to switch it up on defense, and again we're seeing OCU go back to the kind of junk that we saw from them early in the game. But as they did then, they transitioned out of it very quickly. Foul call by Sammy Roberts. There is a turnover, but I believe the continuation rules will send this back. Roberts saying Casella pushed off in his attempt to get up the line.
He threw it, so nothing stops.
Hey, put it down. What?
He called a foul.
I stopped. He stopped.
It didn't affect the play.
He was throwing to me. He was throwing to me. I stopped. Because I turned to him. He called a foul. I stopped. Evan threw it to me. I missed it because I didn't move. It affected the play.
Yeah, it's the same thing like a
how do I continue the play if he's the guy who's guarding me?
I gotta say, while I understand the perspective of the observers, I don't see how Casella is not in the right here. There was a foul call on a throw, on a throw that was to him.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, I think the player calling foul or the player who is involved in that needs to be more clear to their teammate and use those hand signals to really communicate it earlier. This is not at all what the Richmond team wanted.
Agreed, and also, I mean, foul withstanding, that's a poor throw on the part of Richmond. I mean, they still are struggling to execute. But I think Casella's kind of getting a raw deal here. I think at worst he could argue he might have been able to make a play on the continuation. They do get the disc back, although it nearly pings into Kamari's hands. A wild sequence here, and ultimately the disc will end up with Pistolesi on his own goal line. Henke poaching and playing center field. Casella underneath. Travel called, that doesn't stop play. Although now a disagreement with Roberts that Casella correctly addressed the travel.
I said contest when he said fast count. I don't think I was
Okay.
fast counting. I was
Or
like,
rather it's fast count.
All right, sure. What count do you think you were at?
It was at 7 within 2 seconds of me catching the disc.
What stall count were you at when the play stopped? 8. Okay, you were definitely fast counting. Count's going to come in at 1. All right.
I'm so glad we had the mic on for that particular interaction. That is absolutely a fast count call all the way to 8 already. And good job for the observers calmly enforcing that call from the players.
Casella, I think, a bit frustrated after 2 calls that he felt like weren't going to go his way, although with you, I don't know how it's possible to get to 8 seconds in that time. Now, however, Richmond has advanced quite a ways up the field, and it looks like there's some more contact, and things getting a bit chippy between these two teams now.
Yeah, sometimes you see that happen.
I don't think it was a foul.
So if you start here, and then you had your right foot here, your left foot here, and you're pivoting here.
What happens to
2 separate conversations happening, one about the travel between Pistolesi and Henke, and then another one about the foul and the contact between Cannon and Kamari.
If I can test a travel call while he keeps following, what happens there?
Okay, you can contest a travel, in which case play stops, and you figure out where it's supposed to be. You cannot keep stalling when you call travel. When you point and you have to wait. You have to suspend your count until he corrects his travel, and then you can restart. But he's contesting it. Coming in on 1. Do you agree that this is your pivot spot? Okay. Okay, so downfield is contested. Coming in on 1.
So quite a bit to figure out, but I hope you did your homework because it was a long chapter.
Yes, many rules being enacted there.
Pistolesi finding just enough room to flip that one out to space. And Cannon's able to make the catch for the score. And, well, perhaps chippy's the wrong term for the tenor of this game. Just a bit of quite a few calls. Players still being fairly respectful of one another and of the observers, so no problems there. Don't think we're seeing anything unspirited. Just a series of disagreements, however, that have required some clarification between players and observers.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that happens with rules when players are fired up, is the tone in which a call is made is inherently a little bit elevated because of the effort that's being expended by that player. But it doesn't emotionally mean that that player is necessarily angry. I think it's really much part of the receiving team, whoever's being called on, to respectfully listen and de-escalate those kind of situations, which the observers really helped in that point de-escalate those things. I think maybe without observers, it can very quickly turn into a, like you said, a chippy game, a game that is call for call, which is not what we want to see teams do. We want to see teams play to the best of their ability within the rules, and I think in that case, the hold for Richmond really feels good after that stop and go point.
So if somebody on Twitter, though, can please explain to me how that was not a continuation rule and how Casella was not involved in that catch. If somebody could go back and explain that to me, please. You can tweet at me, I'm at FullFieldHammer, or you can tweet directly at UltiWorld. We certainly appreciate the support and any engagement from all of our fans. We've been having a great weekend out here in Norco. We're putting on 2 live streams at a time. We've got another camera filming more games. We're getting interviews with teams. There's so much going on here, and the staff is really working so hard. If you want to support the work that we do, as well as reap the benefits of a subscription with UltiWorld, whether that's getting additional analysis, podcast content, and access to our video library, join us in the Discord where we're talking Ultimate all day long. Check out ultiworld.com/subscribe. See how you can support us and get the benefits of being a subscriber. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm a subscriber, and it really helps me as a coach to be able to track down other teams and see what they're like. That kind of research is invaluable, and a lot of those games, not necessarily on the live stream or on YouTube, but in the archive, there are so many games. It's absolutely worth being a subscriber.
And I love the Discord. I think the Discord's become a really great hangout place. A lot of positive conversations, whether you just want to talk Ultimate or whether you want to talk. We got a design channel where people are judging jerseys and discs and Nationals logos. We've got a rules questions channel where people are discussing different rules debates. There's some really lively chatter and a lot of fun to be had in that UltiWorld Discord. OCU's been having some fun with their high-flying offense. Hankey and Moore going to work in 2-man game. Nicely defended, though, by Richmond. They're not giving up much so far. Costello underneath. High throw from Costello. I think he just juked my eyes out. I thought he was throwing somewhere else completely. But Charlie Luckett gets the reception. Now up ahead to Peniagua.
I don't understand how that was caught.
And another fading throw. Moore trying to blade that one towards the end zone. Diving effort from Van Roosmalen, but he can't come up with it, and it looks like he's going to need a little break after that.
That was such a good effort on that trailing edge. I hope that player is okay. It's actually probably very good for the Richmond team because that disc, after it went out of that player's hand, rolling very far off of this field and out into the distance. Normally a 20-second time when the disc goes out of bounds, and that disc still has not been retrieved. There it is. Welcome back. It looks like Kamari coming in for that player.
It's been a pretty tight rotation, I would say, for really both teams, but in particular, OCU's had I don't know, I feel like maybe 11 or 12 different players taking on almost all the play time, and maybe a group of 6 or so taking on the majority of the touches. And Richmond, I think, has been tightening their rotation as this lead has ballooned. They're going to need to double their score total just to tie this game. Now Lang with a gainer. Lang looking for a reset and not a lot of options, and that is a small space to fit it into. Casella comes up with the catch, and Peniagua is going to make a call. Looks like there's an uncontested foul, actually. I think maybe Casella called a foul, and Beniagro saying we're going to finish that discussion before we move on. Now Casella looking for a hammer. That one was a bit too ambitious. And Casella looking frustrated in discussions with his teammate after that turnover. Teammate saying, hey, we can find a reset. And Casella saying, none of you were open.
Yeah, sometimes I would like someone to do a bad lip reading of Ultimate, especially given the gesticulation that happens.
It could be you, Katie.
It could be me.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
You're right. You're right. I think that's a lot of tape for me to go through in those Ultra-World offsides. Oh, a big layout D and catch block. Two teammates teaming up for that right there. And Richmond absolutely hype after that defensive play, as they should be. That was such a good D. That is exactly what they needed in order to come back, like you were saying, from this deficit. Oh, that's the excitement I needed. I needed that excitement later in this day. That's the kind of plays we've been looking for them to play with all day. Coming up with that reception under pressure, and after the turnover on that hammer, that layout D through the middle. I am hype for them. Just great.
That's one way to make up for red zone hammer turnover. I think the teammates can't be too mad at you after that.
I would hope not, but I think that is the first break for Richmond.
Couldn't come at a better time.
Absolutely not. That's what they needed. We see some more people coming in to watch this game, a little bit more excitement on the sideline. There is more cheering happening as Richmond brings it back within 4.
I believe that's the Richmond Red Hots, the women's team out of the University of Richmond, who was attending their first Division III college championships. Now here to root on their men's side, who could really use the reinforcements.
Yeah, sideline energy should never be underestimated. Those voices making up calls, making your legs run further on defense, that pull rolling out of bounds again. That distance doesn't want to stay on this field. It's gone for a trip. It wants to go home.
I thought for just a moment there that maybe the game had advanced past the point where everybody says he touched it after a pull rolls past somebody, but then alas, one player on field had to indicate, I think he touched it. I think he touched it. Just trust the observers know whether or not he touched it. Elliott Moore gets it under, and then this receiver completely uncovered. Cameron Wright just has some free time. Gets a couple yards out of the continue to Costello, and now Moore underneath. And Moore has just been able to get free whatever this team needs him to. Van Roosmalen returned to the field after taking an injury break. Up to Costello. Costello, great throw to space. Help defender tries to come on, but Moore to the end zone. And while Moore's been a present cutter, he's taken some risky throws, and that one intercepted by the Donovan winner, Harris Cannon.
Yeah, Moore may be feeling that defensive pressure of 2 defenders and then making a poor decision.
So Richmond, new life. The layout block by Chris Casella, setting up their first break. And now another chance after the big play by Harris Cannon. So their stars are really showing up.
You got it? Maybe those contestants won't come to contest the foul. Calvin, ISO pistol.
All right.
I got. Okay.
It's not going to matter because it's going to be their coming one anyways. But.
So a foul contest, and so this is another example of a offensive foul call against Richmond. And to OCU's credit, I do think that Richmond's cutting has been extremely physical, and to the point of potential illegality. The players are going to set that to some degree with the help of the observers. But I think that continued trend, especially if we see OCU continue to make these calls, may result in some sort of TMF. Because I think it's been pretty consistent throughout this game. Richmond upfield, Now to Pistolesi. Pistolesi continues it. Calvin Shorba resets. Excellent dump swing execution on the part of the Spider Monkeys. Gets them all the way from sideline to sideline. And then the flip into the end zone. Don't look now, but Richmond's on the run. Trying to get back into this. A couple of push-ups for Pistolesi. Shows I can throw the score and stay strong.
Yeah, that Richmond side is really starting to feel the energy, really starting to get into it. Earlier in the game, I said that they were just throwing deep, making those execution errors, and I would like to see them come back under, grind that offense, and that is exactly what happened in this point. They looked off some of those straightaway deep cuts and then worked it into the end zone for that fired up score.
The other thing is, it feels like it's been a little while since we've seen one of those quick scores out of OCU, the kind of thing that might be able to silence the crowd, so to speak. You know, one of those isolation looks from Moore to Henke or vice versa. And I wouldn't be surprised to see if that's what OCU tries to dial up here. I also wouldn't be surprised if Richmond comes out with some sort of junk look to take that away.
Yeah, Richmond was getting beat deep a lot early in this game, which led to that big run that Oklahoma Christian went on. They were just getting beat deep, and I think that they've really made an adjustment, their coaching staff getting involved, to stop those deep looks and make Oklahoma Christian throw a lot of throws. Oklahoma Christian wants to throw and go. They want 2 throws or 1 throw scores, and when they've been forced to throw many more throws, slowly we see Richmond inching back into this game with wearing down that offense, making them make mistakes.
Tynan Englert and Keys Patty coaching this Richmond side and making some adjustments that have really helped spark this run. We'll see how this chess match evolves and the tactics between these two top teams. White up ahead and another layout block for Chris Casella.
That was right here in front of the booth, and we saw that safe angle coming in. The player getting blocked looked absolutely flabbergasted. Where did he come from?
Casella has it going right now, and I kind of want to see them feed the hot hand. McCormick, high backhand around. Jacob Pickett gets it back to McCormick. Casella near the front cone. A counter bid this time. Casella just past the pylon. Inside break, Richmond scores again. The run continues. Can the Spider Monkeys climb back in?
Well, if they are anything like their namesake, it is all they do, climb back all day long. This sideline is absolutely hyped up. Their defense is making big plays. And then, unlike earlier in the game, they are poised with it on their break chances, not throwing it away. Instead of taking those risky deep looks, you will see players holstering, moving the disc, and that's the kind of ultimate that they need to keep playing to come back in this game. I would say if there's a team that now looks shell-shocked, it's almost Oklahoma Christian. The emotional swing in this game absolutely going the other way.
Charlie Eisenland and I discussed on our podcast Deep Look the nature of momentum. You know, some people feel like it's a myth. Momentum is a social construct, so to speak. And whether or not it's true, you can see that it is present in this game. Now, it is potentially simply within the control of the teams to have that management of their own emotions. But either way, right now, you can certainly feel that the energy has been pulled into this Richmond side and yanked away from OCU.
Maybe if it's not momentum, it's just belief. I think for a while in this game, there was a lack of belief on Richmond. It's like they didn't believe that they could keep scoring. They didn't believe that they could get Ds. And then suddenly one player decided, you know what? I'm going to go get a layout block. And with the rest of that belief coming in so strong for this Richmond side, suddenly we see Oklahoma Christian maybe beginning to doubt.
Chris Casella is the little kid who starts believing in Santa Claus and powers him back up.
It's that time of year.
It is. It's nationals right around the holidays, folks. and the volume is really turned up. And this is one of my favorite parts of nationals. Semifinals, the sidelines start to get packed, the intensity is higher, the stakes are maximized, and you can feel that energy starting to take shape around this game. Moore and Henke looking to settle things down. Henke takes the centering pass and looks up at a static group of cutters waiting for something to happen. Moore bids to save one, looks deep. And you got to think all of his huck fakes are pretty credible at this point. Help against Henke. Moore looks elsewhere. Smart play by Moore to find Card. Poached. Reset back to Henke. Moore coming across with lots of room. Great switching on the part of Richmond. Nice goal line stand, but it may not be enough. A bidding attempt and caught. OCU finally finds the end zone once again. Sammy Roberts with the layout score.
Yeah, that's something that this Oklahoma Christian side needed after that 4-point run that Richmond just went on. They absolutely wanted to have confidence in their O-line again, and they did, although there were so many high stalls, absolutely nothing happening, finding release valves late, but it was very difficult, I think, for some of those throws. This is just those defenders holstering up. I think we could have had a scary collision if they had decided to bid. Good job protecting other players.
Really impressive job by Richmond to switch to help each other out over and over again, probably 4 or 5 different times. A player got open, a switch happened from Richmond, that opened up another player, and to OCU's credit, they continued to attack whenever one of those players got open, but Richmond just kept rotating through players trying to figure out, okay, we can cover up this hole, we can cover up this hole, we can cover up this hole, trying to get back to equilibrium. But it all started with that initial upline cut from Henke. A poach comes over, that frees up Card, and that initiated that offense. And Elliot Moore really stacking him up on the assist column. He's got 6 points in this game, 5 of them of the throwing variety.
Yeah, I'd love to see a stat from him that has layouts to save possession, because my teammate throw me a very poor reset, because I've seen at least 6 of those in this game, really laying their body on the line to get all of those possession-saving grabs.
And Moore, for his part, he's contributed a couple turnovers to the effort here. But right now, 11-8. This game's starting to feel like it's getting into its most pivotal moments. How will Richmond respond? They had all the energy after that run, and now OCU finally scores. And the reality of a 3-goal deficit may be setting in a bit for Richmond. Casella wide open, but that doesn't dissuade another huck. And Kyle Henke, I don't know how he landed on his feet after going up huge with a left hand, but the powerful leap and the graceful landing for Henke, the judges give it an 8.
I just don't know why they throw it deep. They need to churn under, keep it away from the area that Henke is under.
And sadly for the thrower, he had a wide open target underneath. Chris Casella had 15 yards to gain right there. But Richmond, big eyes, and Henke with the big catches on the other end. So now reset. Roberts up to Kamari. They're completely unmarked. Backhand call coming from the sidelines.
Yeah, the coach desperately trying to communicate to the on-field players.
Kamari on the attack, working with Henke to try and find a reset, fights for the around. Good defense, but the offense keeps possession. Looks like a timeout from Kamari. Give both teams a chance to set something up.
Yeah, that might be a high stall count coming back in for Kamari.
It's anything like that earlier OCU stall count, it's at 16 or something like that right now.
Basically.
Look at that play by the athletic Henke. It's like 2 different moves in one. I mean, he goes up with this incredible play, and then just on the way back down, it's like he slowed back down. Really remarkable athleticism.
Yeah, good knees.
Scary given the things that we've seen over these past 3 days on these fields, but Henke, who's no stranger to injury, has had to play through some injuries. I mean, I've seen this guy play with a cast on one hand and play one-handed before.
I don't think that seemed like it slowed him down probably very much at all. I think this Richmond side needs to get a stuff block here. They're going to really be looking to stop, and when they get another chance at offense, they have to retain possession, really value this disc if they get a chance at it, because this game with only 13 minutes or 14 minutes until we hit that soft cap is slowly they're gonna run out of time to make a run back in this game.
You know, Katie, I know we showed a lot of love to the orange hats, one being worn by Chris Casella, but at this point, if I'm Casella, I might want to get rid of that, because my instruction on OCU would be like, if you see the orange hat, don't throw it. So you don't want to make yourself stick out a little too much.
I mean, it would be a very sneaky change-up to make yourself a target and then remove it.
Or give the orange hat to somebody else. And again, the cross-field looks from OCU. They had 3 waiting receivers and come up with 0 catches from that.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that the late stall count, low percentage throw not rewarded there, and this Richmond side gets another opportunity at their O point.
Casella walks it up, puts it in the middle for Pistolesi. Pistolesi, low throw, saved by Emmett Rice. Rice quietly piling up 3 goals and an assist and a stoppage. Players working this one out pretty quickly.
Yeah, and calmly. I would say that Kamari is the spirit nominee for this Oklahoma Christian team, and they're playing tight defense and then calmly talking about those calls. Those are the kind of plays we want to see players making, and clearly why he is the spirit nominee for this team.
Lang gets the around for Bennett. This is a huge opportunity for Richmond. Cannot be understated. Chester Todd. Lang getting it regularly on this point. He has been the engine for the offense on this possession.
Yeah, we're finally getting to see those handlers start to move much more effectively, grinding underneath, and that's what's working for this Richmond offense.
Lang with the around. I'm not sure if the defender got a piece of that or if Lang just lost control of it, but a brutal reset error for the Spider Monkeys.
Yeah, I think that defender got a piece of it. That looked like a hand block to me.
Javen Smith coming up with a huge block. I mean, you said Richmond might need a stuff block, and it's OCU gets it instead. Some help defense off the back keeps Kyle Henke from getting a huck. Kamari comes under and taps it, catches the second effort. Switch now. We're seeing Richmond go more and more to these switches to try and stop some of these long runs from OCU.
It's smart. The offense from Oklahoma Christian slowing down because of those. That's a little bit of contact there.
Yeah, Pistolesi again staying on his feet rather than bidding through anybody, but still giving a bump to Henke, who didn't seem to mind too much, and that didn't prevent the Eagles from getting a score. A great opportunity for the Richmond to try and push towards a comeback, and instead it's a hold for OCU, and they go up 12-8. Or excuse me, a break for OCU to go up 12-8.
It's hard to tell. That point went on for quite a while. We had many changes in possession, but eventually it was, I think, Henke to Kamari holding that point.
Just a missed opportunity for the Spider Monkeys, and there have been far too many of those. They still have an outside chance at getting back into this. I certainly wouldn't write them off. We've seen them make a run before. But
yeah, it's just, are they going to have enough time? Are they going to have enough time to come back in this game? Because these points aren't short. They're going back and forth. There's a lot of intensity, and I think that if Richmond is going to make a run, they have to do it now, they have to do it efficiently, and they have to immediately get back on the field to start the next couple points. Otherwise, they're going to run out of game time to make a comeback here.
They're going to have to contend with Kyle Henke, although Henke taking a little break. Coach Taylor talking with the defense about how they're going to approach this.
I wonder if they make Friday Night Light references with Coach Taylor.
It's certainly possible. Taylor doing a lot of drawing. I'm not sure if he has like one of those eraser boards or something on there, or if he just has boundless pieces of paper. But a lot of diagramming to be happening mid-game. I feel like you don't see that frequently. Maybe once or twice during a timeout, but he's doing it literally between points.
Many points. I think maybe we have to go over there and talk to him about his coaching style after this game, understanding what he's trying to do with his players. Maybe it's something we can incorporate into our own coaching regimens.
Maybe he's just playing hangman. We don't know.
High stakes hangman.
And speaking of high stakes, how about this hammer? I don't know where that just came from, but all of a sudden Brett Chopert set up sending this one to the end zone.
We said they needed to score. We said they needed to score quickly, and that's exactly what this O-line does, marching it down the field, and that's going to put their O-line back on. They want to score efficiently. I don't think we've seen a hammer yet completed in this game. That was at least for Richmond, and that was a nice one.
Yeah, you and I both project pretty well. I mean, maybe they heard us. We're not that far away from the players.
Yes, commentators curse sometimes happens when we say something and the other team does exactly the opposite when we don't want them to do. But in this case, working out for Richmond, getting their D-line back out there. More orange hats there for this D-line.
I've always thought it's a bit unfair that people talk about the commentator's curse and we get blamed for when we help encourage a mistake by talking about the opposite. Why don't we get the positive version, the broadcaster's blessing? Sometimes you say something and then it happens right there. I'm going with it. And I'm keeping the alliteration.
You heard it here first, folks. Broadcaster's blessing.
So Richmond's defense back out, and that's exactly who they need to be out on the field to get back into this game. Turns out your offense can't get breaks, so they need to stay on defense as much as possible. The more D-line they send out there, the better that is for their fortunes. Pull being sent up by McCormick. Nice hanger, so his team will have time to get under it, although the coverage a little lackadaisical. That meant some free yards for Elliott Moore and Kyle Henke, and Henke's doing one of those long runs we've been talking about, going all the way from the handler space into the deep space. That pulls some help defense. Henke going back to the well for a second one. Harris Cannon trying to get there. Cannon knocks it away. Had to have it.
Getting up big for that play as the sunlight gilds it with the slanting lines coming in as the sun starts to go down. That is a big D on Henke there.
And interesting, Henke making the deep cut, cuts off the deep cut after the help comes, but then as soon as the disc moves, makes the same cut again, and that one freeing him up. Great job by Harris Cannon to make the play, and any shorter, and he doesn't get there.
These resets are making me nervous. I'm clutching the cord to my headphones, waiting for this to happen.
Pistolesi with room to fire one. He does. Elliott Moore in the defensive coverage and can't come up with the play. Richmond gets exactly what they need, a break. The drama building, folks.
And that brings Richmond back within 2. Woo, we have 5.5 minutes until this soft cap horn goes off. If they can get another break and bring it back within 1, this game could certainly be winnable for Richmond. Oklahoma Christian really needs to calm down, punch this in, because they don't want to have their very big lead. I think the biggest up 5 points, 10-5, 10-4 they were up. That 6-point lead now shrunk to 2.
Yeah, we've seen this game get back to 2 once in the second half. It was 10-8 briefly, I believe. But since it was 4-2, Oklahoma Christian has been in control of this game.
Yeah, Richmond went on a 4-point run earlier in this half. They're currently on a 2-point run. Can they extend it? Can they bring it back?
It seems like eons ago, but Richmond, I think, broke to start this game.
I agree. This has been a really back and forth game. This sideline is amping up even more as we watch the poll about to go up.
So the Spider Monkeys trying to fire up for a comeback. Casella with the pull, and another offside signal. I think I've seen one offsides in the other 10 games that I've commentated on during this weekend, and I think this is the fourth one this game or something of that nature.
I think that disc went far away again. This disc just continuing to roll out the sideline, making it difficult. In terms of timing, this is actually maybe something that's going to get pre-stalled. If it lands out of bounds, they're going to bring it back in.
I'm kind of surprised we don't have an extra disc near the field, just to switch them out. So Henke's going to get quality field position, though. And, of course, he will be met by Harris Cannon, who seems to have settled in as the Henke matchup. It's a fun one to watch. A near poach block to begin this possession that frees up Paniagua. Looking for Costello. Inside break. That one nearly tailing away. But through all of that so far, OCU is able to maintain possession. And Henke, with a Harris Cannon just flying by him, calmly secures that score and gets OCU one step closer.
Yeah, it looks like Richmond has switched to a backhand force for the most part against this team, which is getting them stymieing the flow of Oklahoma Christian a little bit, but they're retaining possession with that short field, making quick work of this defense. There are, again, some good switches and some good layouts, but not quite enough to get the turn there.
And one of the reasons that I like that strategy is that when the wind has gusted here, it has come towards this near sideline, or at least towards this corner. So this is still the low side of the field. By forcing backhand, you're going to encourage the other team to play more from this low sideline when they're going from right to left. But that has not stopped Kyle Henke and this offense. I mean, you see the stats. We talked about Elliot Moore at the time. He had 1 goal and 4 assists. Kyle Henke out scoring even that. Now with his 8th point in this game. So 5 goals, 3 assists. He's figured into 8 of the 13 Eagle scores.
Yeah, and again, we're not quite at cap, so this is going to be on the Richmond O-line to try to score as quickly as possible with only 1 minute and 46 seconds until cap goes off. As a reminder to those, cap means that the next point, it will be +1, and that will be the new point total that we're playing towards.
And stop me if you've heard this one before, but we've got an offside signal. I'm a little perturbed by how frequently this is happening. At what point, as a coaching staff, do you have to correct these errors? These are things that are very controllable.
Absolutely, and it seems a little bit like the team is flustered, unsure when the disc is coming in.
And that doesn't help us. A first throw turnover. Not sure if that hung on the fingers of Lang or if he just wasn't sure which player he was throwing to, but this harkens back to when Richmond was struggling earlier in the game. An execution error. Kamari looking to execute a give and go. Roberts fended off. Now Kamari looking for options late in the stall, knocked away, but Roberts, considering your call, thinks the better of it. Maybe there is going to be a call. Players are stopping. Pistolesi's not. We got madness.
We do. We have confusing madness over here. Pistolesi continuing to keep.
I'm pretty sure we have a false stoppage here.
No call.
Players expected Roberts to make a call. His body language was not exactly clear, and so players just stopped as if there was a call. And that phantom stoppage just got Pistolesi about an extra 55 yards or so. Casella to the end zone. McCormick with the catch. A Richmond hold to keep them alive.
All right, during that, it looks like soft cap went off, so that should be a game to 14. But there is no hard cap, so there is no time limit on how long. There's just, I think, a limit on how long the sun will stay up.
Who wants a hard cap at semis? Not this guy. And there's actually a segment of fans who are between the two fields who are traveling back and forth as each point concludes. So a score over here, the fans traveling over to the other semifinal behind us, where Middlebury and St. Olaf are clashing for a spot in the final, just like the two teams in front of you.
All right, Richmond is going to be on defense. Oklahoma Christian on offense. They need 1 point to end this game.
And I can imagine you're probably going to see a lot of Elliot Moore and Kyle Henke.
Yes, it looks like the observers are having a discussion, which is why this point isn't quite starting. But you can see in the replay there that score coming efficiently after the confusion of that point.
And Coach Taylor actually gesturing to the clipboard that he has in front of him. And to me, that would imply that there may be some discrepancy about the score. It also could be the time that cap should go on that they're discussing.
Where's the, do you have a program with you?
Looks like they're going to get some clarity about the rules from the program itself.
Soft cap 90. Soft cap for D1 semis and D1 and D3 is at 145.
I'd love the horn right now, then.
So it did go on game to 14.
Game 14.
Game to 14.
Game to 14! Game to 14!
Some misunderstanding about the cap timing and whether or not it was appropriate for it to be applied now. Decided that it was, so our broadcast was correct. I thought for a second they might come to us, Katie.
You know, we've been pretty on top of it this game. As a coach, I'm not known for my ability to keep the score very well. I usually have an assistant coach to make sure that it's accurate, but I think I'm taking good notes here today.
Oh, I'm an excellent scorekeeper. We'd make a great duo.
There we go.
Diving stop by Peniagua. I love it.
You did say that was your favorite.
Moore takes off. He's got lots of room. Henke fires it. Is this the score that sends OCU to the final? Knocked away by Lang, and he looks frustrated, implying a call for Moore.
I'd like to see the replay on that because that looked like a pretty clean D from here. All three players going up.
And honestly, I'm of the mind that even if there may be technically a foul, it's just hard to justify it on a throw to three defenders with one offensive player there.
Replay, I think that was a clean D, the contact coming on the way back down.
I agree with you.
Okay, guys, it sounds like a foul contest. We're both good with a foul contest. Back to the thrower.
I'm a little bit surprised that Lang did not want to go to the observer on that, but he doesn't have our perspective on it, so.
No, and really, it's a choice between does the, I mean, I don't know if they were in, but they were very close. It may have been a score, right? Or do you send it back and retain possession? I think as a defender, you have to resort in not letting the other team score, well, giving your chance of player.
Given that there was no catch, even if it was decided as a foul, I think Moore would get it on the goal line. But obviously still not a great position with the season on the line. So Henke gets the disc back. And that was a bit of a blown switch on Moore in that situation, and that is freed up and open wide underneath. So now Henke back under to Van Roosmalen. Now Roosmalen looking for options. It's another receiver taking off, forced to go for a reset. It's been upline to Henke all day, and the poach comes over to help, but there's a call on the throw, I think probably a travel on Van Roosmalen. It's also possible it was a stall call. We haven't seen an answer.
We can only hear the wind of the observer. It is a stall contest, judging from those hand signals. Disc will come back.
I'm a firm believer that stall is the most contested call in Ultimate. Got to be like a 80% contest rate.
I would love someone who's into statistics to go back through game footage and figure that out. I don't know that I can disagree with you anecdotally.
Now, we have seen in this second half, Richmond has been kind of spying these Henke up the lines, trying to get help coming from upfield to prevent these rangy throws up to Henke. I don't know if that's something that we're going to continue to see, but you can see all these red jerseys around as Henke goes up the line.
Yeah, swarming defense.
That switching, helping defense has been part of the comeback, but can it save Richmond here? They're on the goal line and into the end zone for Kyle Henke. That's going to do it, folks. Don't call it beginner's luck. First time Nationals attendees, and they'll be first time finalists. Oklahoma Christian will be in the championship match.
Oh, but you just have to feel for the Richmond sideline. You can see players collapsing with effort, collapsing with emotion. This is a team that has lost in semis before, and they're absolutely feeling the loss today. I mean, it's a semifinal, so no matter what happens, you know one team is going to be elated and the other team is going to be devastated, and it's that kind of drama that we live for as spectators. You can hear the other side, the other semifinal that's happening, just erupt with some sort of excitement. But here on your screen, you're seeing a bunch of replays of this really spectacular up line cut from Henke, which he did again and again, retaining possession in this game.
So with the conclusion of the semifinal behind us happening just after the conclusion over here, we know it'll be the Oklahoma Christian Eagles taking on the Middlebury Pranksters in the final. Middlebury joining their women's program, also going to be finalists. So just like in Division I, where North Carolina is threatening to win both the men's and women's side, and Middlebury trying to do the same thing in Division III. Lots of drama to be had here in Norco.
I mean, if they both managed to do that, the same school winning for D1 and the same school winning for D3, I don't know that we'd ever see that stat again. What an impressive thing that could be happening.
Yeah, that's got to be a first, and maybe the last. Who knows? Something amazing would happen. For some reason, that would make me want to see the Middlebury men's team and the UNC women's team play against the Middlebury women's team and the UNC men's team combined. I don't know. Sounds like
a mixed squad coming together.
But with the other teams. Mixed components. It could be a lot of fun. I mean, this game was a lot of fun. Really dramatic game of runs. Richmond able to fight back late in that game, but simply there were just too many execution errors along the way for them to overcome, even with great playmaking.
Yeah, I really loved this game. We saw Henke putting on a show for most of the first half. I think he caught 5 of the scores in the first half. Richmond making a run in that second half, putting up 4 points in a row to try to come back, but eventually running out of daylight, running out of time before this very strong Oklahoma Christian team could put the final nail in the coffin to Richmond's season.
Heck, this Richmond team showing a lot of heart in the way that they fought back in this game, but that comeback effort coming up just short. But you know what makes it sting is that it felt achievable. Clearly they had the talent, but they mostly got in their own way during this game. Credit to Oklahoma Christian for their ability to make big plays on offense, for some of the pressure that they apply on defense, but a lot of the errors on this Richmond team, just ones that I think they felt like they could have executed. What they couldn't do, however, was stop Oklahoma Christian. Elliot Moore, Kyle Henke, and the rest of this Oklahoma Christian cast, Emmanuel Kamari, Sammy Roberts, I mean, they were able to consistently find options, and that offensive excellence was just overpowering against Richmond.
Yeah, and there's some highlight plays that they absolutely put up today. It was really a show on both sides of the disc, but I think that there was that
I forgot about whatever that was.
It seems so long ago now, but these big throws, big catches, making plays on both sides of the disc.
Casella with the remarkable layout block, right in the nick of time. I mean, this team needed to have it, and that really brought a lot of the energy back for the Spider Monkeys. But ultimately, I mean, even with big plays like this one from Harris Cannon, it was that deep game and activation from OC. I mean, they got a big lead. They made the big plays in the closing moments. A really clutch performance by the Eagles.
Very much so. I enjoyed watching that game, but I also enjoy watching this kind of huddle. You don't always get to see the amount that players care about each other and care for their teammates, the effort that they put in, and really you can feel for this team in that huddle over there.
We're going to go now to the sideline where Zach Mabry will be talking with Kyle Henke.
I'm here with Kyle Henke. Kyle, you just had a big game with Oklahoma Christian. You guys are going on to the finals. What'd you guys do to prepare for today?
Oh man, I know I took 3 showers, just getting loose in the shower, hot showers, stretching as long as I could. But outside of that, man, we tried to get out and sweat a little bit beforehand, watch some Frisbee and talk some strategy as well.
Okay, great. You guys made a lot of big plays. Anything you have to say about your play? What was going right for you? You had, I think, 6 goals, 3 assists.
Okay, cool. And probably 7 turns, I'm guessing. Yeah, I mean, you know, it was great that we had some Richmond film last night. We really analyzed that. So honestly, props to the D-line. They really crushed poaching their setup there. But yeah, I think things went well between our star power on the O-line for showed as well on that O-line as well when they decided to mix some things up there at the end.
Perfect. And looking forward, it seems like you're going to be playing Middlebury in the morning. Do you know anything about Middlebury? Anything you guys are going to look to do differently? Any game planning you're going to do tonight?
We don't know if there's any film on them, but we're a dominant team on O especially, so there's not much we're going to change. We're going to use our athletes and we're going to dig deep.
Okay, great to hear. We're going to send it back to Keith.
Thanks, Zach. Great to hear from Kyle. Hashtag 3 showers. I mean, now that if you take 3 for semifinals and you win, do you take 3 again, or do you have to take more to prepare for a final? It's unclear to me right now.
I mean, what time of day is it? What is the temperature outside? So many factors to
What's
take in.
What's the duration of the shower? I don't know.
Exactly. On your screen, you can see the bracket: Oklahoma Christian against Middlebury Pranksters tomorrow.
Someone break the news that there's definitely film of Middlebury, because we just had him on the live stream over here for that double game point win. A really exciting one. If you were watching this Oklahoma Christian game, probably going to want to go back and check that one out. And if you want to check out all the other film here, ultiworld.com/subscribe to help support us. I'm really looking forward. We are going to have those D3 finals tomorrow for you. You have to be there. After the way that these two teams just played and the plays that they were making, you do not want to miss this.
Absolutely not. A great game. Really a pleasure to be here with the Ultiworld team this weekend, especially as we watch the sunset in California, moon rising behind us. Really a great day of Ultimate.
And there's plenty more to come. We won't be broadcasting these Division I semifinals. You'll have to find that through USA Ultimate and ESPN. But we will be bringing plenty of coverage of those semifinals from Division I, as well as the finals from both Division I and Division III tomorrow. So you have to stick with us. We have plenty more to do. Check us out on either at ultiworld.com/live. You know the subscription options. Follow us on Twitter. We've really got all the angles covered. There's no better way to feel like you're here in Norco than following along with Ultiworld. So this was a tremendous game. A lot of big plays on both sides, but it's OC that comes away with the win. Again, first-time attendees, first-time finalists. Maybe they're going to be first-time title winners. Oklahoma Christian 14-11. We'll catch you tomorrow for the final.